Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me for our review of what we believe to be the best index annuity available today. Typically, annuities range from 5 to 15 years. Of course, the closer to 5 years, the better for the consumer, so I'll talk only about 5-year annuities. There are two types of 5-year annuities. There are those that are pure walkaway and those that are 5 by 5. With the pure walkaways, after 5 years, you're done. You can transfer your money without charges or fees after the 5 years. With the 5 by 5 products, after 5 years, you can get access to the entire account balance without charges or fees, but you must do so over 5 payments. Effectively, the annuity company gives you 20% of your money per payment. So why would anybody opt for a 5 by 5 when pure walkaways exist? The answer is that there's an incentive for you to choose the 5 by 5. There's an upfront bonus of 4%, and typically there's better terms during the first 5 years, so you have potential to make more money. Accordingly, the remainder of this review will focus/pertain only to 5 by 5 annuities. Okay, now let's assume we make it through the first 5 years. What are your options? Well, after 5 years, you can continue to defer, or you can get out via the 5 payments. It only takes 4 years and 1 day to get the 5 payments. Why? Because you get your first payment at the beginning of the 6th year, and you get your last payment at the beginning of the 10th year. Hence, it only takes 4 years and 1 day to get the 5 payments. Now, assume you start with $80,000. 5 years later, your annuity grows to $100,000. If you opt to get out via the 5 payments, the annuity company is going to actually give you a little interest, so you're going to get $22,000 a year approximately for 5 years, for a total of $110,000. When you get the $22,000 annual payments, they could be reinvested immediately. Effectively, you're going to be earning interest on top of interest. And finally, if this was IRA money you used to purchase the annuity initially, when you get the $22,000 payments, you can roll them over to another IRA account and avoid current taxation. All right, now I want to talk about your options once you're in the indexed annuity. There are two accounts. There's the indexed account and the fixed account. Let me talk about the fixed account first. The fixed account is very similar to a 1-year CD. Currently, the fixed rate is 3.4%, and that's going to last for 1 year. This annuity comes with a 4% bonus, so in the first year, you're going to get a 7.4% first-year yield. Now, assume you stayed in the fixed side for the entire 5 years and you never used the indexed account. What would happen? Well, you'd get your 4% bonus, you'd get your 3.4% first-year yield, and let's assume the rates remain constant and you got 3.4% for 5 years. So with compounding, that produced about a 4.5% annual simple interest yield over the 5 years. Today, 5-year CDs are yielding about 3%. So obviously the yield is better. Plus, with an indexed annuity, you get to take out 10% per year. Okay, now let me talk about the other features of this indexed annuity. Okay, you get a 4% upfront bonus. So if you contribute $100,000, you'll start with $104,000 day one. You may choose between the indexed account or the fixed account. You get to allocate your money as you see fit, and you can split your funds accordingly. The fixed account is providing currently a 3.4% annual yield. Now let me talk about the indexed account. The indexed account is linked to the S&P 500, and here's how it works. The indexed account is calculated by adding up the monthly S&P 500 gains and losses with the gains capped at 4.3%. So every month, the S&P is going to either have an up month or a down month. If it goes up, that's a plus number. If it goes down, it's a negative number. The plus numbers are capped at 4.3%. Now, after 2 years, which is 24 months, you settle. You add up all the gains and losses. If the total is positive, you keep the gain. If the total is negative, you get 0% for the 2-year period. You can never get less than 0% in any 2-year period. So let me go ahead and use an example to explain further. If the market rises 1% every month for 2 years, what you'd get is a bunch of plus ones. You add them up for 24 months. You'd earn 24% for the 2-year period. Or if the market falls, at least you won't get a negative. You don't lose a dime. In either case, whether the market's up or down, you'd keep your 4% upfront bonus. Okay, after 5 years, you can access your entire balance without fees or charges over the 5 payments as discussed earlier. And remember, during the first 5 years, you can take 10% annual withdrawals without any charges or fees. Finally, let me emphasize that this annuity is very liquid and that you can take out 10% annually during the first 5 years, and then you can tap your entire balance over the 5 payments. Let me spend some time now talking a little bit more about that 4.3% monthly cap. Please note your gains are limited by the 4.3% monthly cap. So if there was a month whereby the S&P went up more than 4.3%, you would forgo those extra gains and only get 4.3% credited for the month. For example, if the S&P went up 6% that month, you'd only get a plus 4.3% credited. But with the monthly cap set so high, it's not common monthly gains exceed it. Hence, it's likely that if the market rises, you should receive much of the market gains. So now I'd like to explore and see how many times the monthly cap was exceeded during the last 3-year period when the market actually went up. Okay, so we're going to look at from the end of 2003 to the end of 2006. Our chart, column B, indicates the S&P 500 at the end of 2003 was 1,111. At the end of the 3-year period, December 20 of 2006, the S&P was at 1418. So the market went up. How much? It went up 27.76%. So I thought it would be interesting to see how many times you would have gotten capped out. Hence the column entitled Monthly Percentage Change. Every time you are capped out, this number would be in red. So let's scan down this column, see how many times the S&P exceeded 4%. Oh, well, you were close here at 3.86. But in fact, there was no month where you got capped out. Hence, you would have, if you add up all the monthly gains and losses, it totals up 25%. You would have made 25% when the market went up 27. The only reason you didn't get it all is you lose out on compounding when you do monthly summing. In any case, here, you would have gotten, in this example, you would have gotten a large chunk of the gains, and had the market gone down, you wouldn't have gotten any of the losses. So 4.3% cap entitles you to get much of the gains. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at what happens after 2 years. So after 2 years, you renew and go another 2 years. Or you renew and opt for the 1-year option, i.e. the fixed rate at 3.4%. You may allocate and apportion your funds into either account as you see fit, and you can mix and match. Finally, how is this annuity done historically? What I wanted to do was take a look to see how this annuity is done over every 6-year period since 1989. Okay, so let's set the stage. You have $100,000 you're putting in. Let's assume the cap remains constant at 4.3% for the 6-year periods we're going to look at. And once again, we've got an upfront bonus of 4%. Now, I'm going to assume we invest $100,000 in various 6-year periods. Let's take a look at the first 6-year period, and we're looking at this rectangle entitled Value After 6 Years. Okay, so let's say we put $100,000 into this annuity at the end of '89. We let it accrue. We didn't take any withdrawals. The cap remained constant at 4.3%. Had we left our money in there for 6 years, our $100,000 would have grown to $154,578. Hopefully you see that number on your screen. Now, let's say we put a new $100,000 in at the end of 1990, and same assumptions, we let it accrue for 6 years. What would it have grown to? Well, it would have grown to $191,249. So you're probably getting to understand that the numbers inside this rectangle is every 6-year period that we inspected since 1989. So what's germane to me is to look at the best results and the worst results. So the best 5-year period, 100 grew to 229,761. The worst 5-year period, 100 grew to 116,607. So if history is any indication of the future, one would expect the 100 to grow somewhere between those boundaries. In fact, I summarized the numbers right here. Your worst gain was 16,000. That represents a 2.77% yield. Your best gain was 129,000. That represents a 2.163 simple interest yield. and your average was 11.22%. Okay, you know, what's interesting about this product is, you know, 3-year CDs are around 2.77%, or 5-year CDs are around there. So in my opinion, if you're looking for a fixed income vehicle, this vehicle offers just about equivalent rates on the downside and enormous potential on the upside. Now, let me go ahead and take a look at another period. You know, let's take a look at this chart a little more closely. I've got one more number I think is pretty important.